Welcome to the video series of Chess with the Chess Course. I am back with lesson on discovered check, and this is nothing but an extension of the previous session, discovered attack. So basically discovered check is similar to discovered attack. The only difference is that the opponent's piece is the helpless king. Let us start learning this session by having a look at a very simple but effective trap in the Petrov defense. White played e4, black replied e5, white played knight f3, and now black, ignoring this threat on his e5 pawn, counters this with knight f6. This opening is known as Petrov's defense, named after the famed Russian master Alexander Petrov. Alternately, it is also named as Russian defense, a very good solid opening repertoire against e4 opening. White normally here continues with knight captures e4, and now black should basically know the pitfall. If he tries too early to recover the pawn, makes a haste, then he comes into trouble. White moves his queen to e2, and what do we see? That pieces are lined up against the king. The knight is unprotected, and if now black moves his knight back to safety on f6, we see that the stage is set for discovered check. White needs to move his knight. Which is the square the knight should move to? Well then, here he can move to c6, uncovering a check from queen on e2. At the same time, knight attacks the queen, and also like the e7 square. So it is not possible for black to block the check from e7, and he has to part with his queen. The success of this little combination also lies in the fact that as I said, that the move knight c6 very importantly covers this e7 square. Here white also had an alternative of playing knight g6, winning rook, but then winning queen is more precious. So the winning move is knight c6, discovered check from the queen. So the lesson to be learned from this simple example is never to keep our king in line of opponents' bigger pieces, the lion pieces. Get them out of the way, no matter how many pieces are between them. We now move on to next example, where we'll examine double discovered check, two checks at the same time. The great master Aaron Nimzowitsch has said that even the laziest of the king flees in the threat of double discovered check. Let us examine from a famous miniature played between Richard Reti and Tartakover, an offhand game in the year 1910. Reti was white and he started the game with e4. Black replied c6, the Caro-Kann defense. White played d4, black countered d5, white played knight to c3, d captures e4, knight captures e4, knight f6, putting a question to white what he wants to do with his knight, whether he can he has option of going for exchange or defending it. So here in this position, white decides to defend with queen d3, and now here we find black playing e5. This move appears to be doubtful for the simple reason that queen is having protection with his bishop and also with the pawn. So there is this is not under pin, and this pawn of black, the thrust e5, the pawn is unprotected. So white had no hesitation in capturing the pawn, and now we also see an immediate attack on the knight of black. Now to restore parity in material, black played queen a5. But what does this move do? Oh, of course, it's a double attack. We see an attack on the king, and at the same time the threat of recovering back the pawn on e5. But this allowed white to bring out his bishop with a tempo gaining move, bishop d2. So black is forced to play queen captures e5. And now what do we see after this move? That the knight on e4 is under pin. It's an absolute pin. It cannot move. And we also see that this knight is attacked twice by queen on e5 as well the knight on f6. And there is only one defender for white, that is queen on d3. So like black was expecting a simple retreat of means a defensive move of pawn on f3, giving additional protection, the second protection to the knight on e4. But if chess was that simple, well, here white ignored all this and simply went in for a long castle, offering his knight for free. And here we see black playing knight into e4. It is not possible for him to, or rather not good for him to play queen into e4 for the simple reason that white will pin his queen with rook e1, and he would be getting queen of black just by giving up his rook and knight in the opening stage of the game with no compensation whatsoever. So here black played knight e4 and he thought, yes, now is a piece up. Well, like he expected white to play rook e1 and again pin the knight, but then black thought it would take a long time for white to recover the pawn. He can try to defend with f5 and then white will play f3. This is what the calculation went in his mind, but to his horror, simply here white played queen d8 check, sacrificing it. This drags the king onto the d8, bringing it in line of the rook on d1. Now the stage is set for a discovered attack, a discovered check rather. White needs to move his bishop. What are the options? Well, first thing that comes to mind is white has sacrificed this queen. So here white would like to recover back the queen with bishop f4, discover check. But then here black has a nice trick. He would simply move out his queen to d5 and remove the check, and then white has lost more material. Black would not mind in staying in the game with queen d5. But here the term double discover check comes into play. White here played bishop to g5. We see two checks at the same time. Bishop on g5 giving check, as well uncovering a check from rook on d1. Black had two options. Here he moved his king to c7 and got mated with bishop d8 check. Let us also examine what if he goes to e8, the other square. Well, in that case checkmate comes from rook d8. So this is a very notable example to learn double discover check, and we can see how dangerous this move is. It is basically making two moves at a time. We move ahead, and now we shall examine a position from the game between Masuski and Kolish. This was played in 1864, and you will find this pattern here or the position very similar to Reti Tartakover. You see this three pieces lined up in the same way. We have queen, bishop and rook, and the black king on e8, which is if we just go back to Reti Tartakover, just let me take you back before that final move. So here it is white had played queen d8. Yes, so here you also see this pieces lined up against the king. So it is very similar. So after queen d8, what we see here, it is the capture. We see bishop and rook lined up against them. Same way here in the game between Masuski and Kolish, we are going to see the same pattern. It's almost identical. So here again a similar idea, queen d8 check, forces response, king into d8, and now the stage is set for double discover check, as in Reti Tartak over, white brought about a double discovered check with bishop g5 check. And what you can see now here, that both the pieces can be captured. For example, the bishop on g5 is attacked by the knight on e4. The rook on d1 is attacked by the queen on g4. But in double discovered check, it is not possible to get out of check by capturing with any other piece excepting the king. Blocking is also ruled out. So the only way to remove check is by moving the king, which normally happens, or by capturing a piece with a king if that piece is within his capturing zone. So here, since that is not possible, as both the rook and bishop are at a distance, here black needs to move his king. He moves to e8, the only available square, and mate follows with rook d8. Mating finale is similar to Reti Tartak over if black had played king e8 instead of king c7. So one more recurring pattern of double discovered check. We conclude our session of learning double discovered check with a trap in the king's gambit. This in fact happened twice between Meek Alexander, a great 19th century player. He played two games almost identical and unknown black player falling to this trap. Meek was white. He started with e4, black replied e5, f4, king's gambit. Here black accepts the gambit, king's gambit accepted, and now we see knight f3. Black played d5, a counter gambit. White protected the pawn on e4 by moving his knight to c3. Black captures on e4, b captures e4, white recaptures knight into e4, and now here black brings about a pin with bishop g4. So here in this position, Alexander Meek quietly played queen e2, taking up his position in line with the black king. And now the weak unknown player thought that he had nothing to worry, as is attacking the queen with bishop captures f3. He thought that this check can be parried by capturing the queen, but he did not see that on moving the knight, a check will also be discovered from it. So here Alexander Meek just played knight f6, and to the surprise of black, it is check and mate. The king has no flight square on d7 and also on e7. And as I said earlier, that there is no option of capturing a piece in with any other chessman than the king in double discovered check. Here it's same position. This pawn on g7 is attacking the knight on f6. Okay, and here bishop is also attacking the queen, but both these options are ruled out, and even double discovered check, as I said, cannot be blocked. King normally has to move, but here since he has no flight square, it is check and mate. So I would like to conclude this session on double discovered check with a riddle, and the riddle is figure out the function which can be done by all the chessmen excepting the queen, and the clue is queen is the strongest piece on the board. Well, I have not given any answer even in the book. Maybe I'll share answer with you in this video at the later stage. Till then, bye for now. I will be back with the test series on discovered check. Till then, see you.